What's up everybody and welcome to another Samy's camera video. Today I am joined by my buddy here, Thourn, aka Mr. Heng on YouTube. And we got a chance to play with some of Panasonic's latest gear, and that includes the Panasonic S5IIX, a couple of accessories from it by Kondor Blue, as well as Sandisk Professional, and that is the Sandisk Pro Blade. This is an SSD, and the reason why we got everything together and we were able to take all this gear out and play with it is because all this gear comes together to combine itself into this monstrosity here of a rig, which is pretty awesome, and it allows you to record in a bunch of different codecs and do a bunch of different things with it. So anyway, Thourn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right, first off, I am not a YouTuber. Okay, I am a teacher first and foremost, and before that, I'm a dad and a husband. But anyways, what I do is I teach students photography and filmmaking, and so I literally have 3 of these cameras in my classroom because I can utilize all the tools that are in this camera. So it's packed with so many features where I can teach photography and video at the same time with this camera. So that is the reason why I have 3 of these in my classroom. And so right now, the kids are working with the stripped down version, but then I'm gonna get some funding here, and then I'm gonna get the cage with rage version right here. Because this thing is a beast, like literally, this camera can do so much for the price point. It's insane.
I agree though. I mean, you know, I got a chance to play with the S1 when it first came out. It was the first full frame camera from Panasonic, and I do think they did it properly, you know, and I just had a lot of fun with that camera, but you know, it is a little bit of a bigger body. It's definitely heavier. It's got a big battery, you know, and now this version, you know, the S5 II when it came out was an amazing photography camera and still a great video camera, but I really think that Panasonic hit it out of the park with the S5IIX. It's packed with a ton of features for videographers as well as photographers, but you know, we decided to take it out and shoot some video with it, you know, and the reason why I decided to invite Thourn, you know, to be a part of this this collaboration, this awesome project, was because he's so well versed on the camera, you know, and like he told you, you know, he chooses this camera for his students and for himself, you know, to shoot. And after this weekend, I totally understand why. You know, this camera, like I said, is packed full of features, and the ability to add the Kondor Blue cage with the Pro Blade SSD just makes this camera that much more irresistible to videographers, you know, anywhere from, you know, starting videographers to being able to rig it out and, you know, being able to put a cage on it, being able to add microphones, like I said, the SSD to be able to record in higher resolutions and higher formats. To, you know, just being able to accessorize it and add as much as you can to it and really make it look beefy, which is going to be great for, you know, your clients when they see you walk in with that. You know, it's definitely going to turn heads, and not only that, it's going to be able to back it up with the powerhouse that is the S5IIX. We decided to head out to Borrego Springs because we wanted to check out a couple different locations, and the first location was Fawns Point.
I remember when we were setting this up and you were setting up the caged version, and then I was literally just holding this little bad boy right here with my kit lens, and I was doing like BTS of him shooting Fawns Point, and I was like, wow, this makes my life so easy as a content creator who could just like run and gun with a light setup. I mean, no one's gonna really vlog with this. You're gonna shoot more seriously with this kind of setup, and you're gonna take your time more. And this body with this kit lens is 20 to 60. It's just really light and fun to move around with instead of feeling like I'm bogged down with like something gigantic. And so having lenses like this, it's helpful for me to be able to, again, move around quickly, and that's what this setup is meant for. If you vlog and run around a lot and shoot stuff just for yourself, you're gonna enjoy this lens a lot. Where we went to was very dusty.
Very dusty. Yeah.
Honestly, I have vlogged with my the S5, the first version, in the rain. Okay, I'm walking around in the rain with this 20 to 60 lens, and I had no problem at all. I did not worry about this camera like crapping out on me because rain got in. Nothing happened. Like the next day I was just like, yep, that's the reason why I have this camera. And the S5IIX is even better because of the new feature. We're gonna talk about that new feature, which is phase detect autofocus.
Well, you know, I remember when I was shooting video of Kevin, it snapped on him and it just tracked him very, very nicely. And at one point you were using the tracking feature and it's like, I go back and look at the footage and I mean, there's no mistakes. You know, the camera's doing a great job and that's what you need it to do. Since I can remember, Panasonic has always packed their cameras full of technology. And like, you know, anywhere from like Bluetooth connectivity, great working application to be able to control the camera. But now, you know, with video, it's like this camera has pretty much all the codecs you would pretty much want and need up, you know, to 6K footage, which is maybe not something that you're gonna use all the time, but just the ability to be able to do so is pretty great. So we talked about the autofocus and we also talked about the weather sealing. Now this camera's packing a 24.2 megapixel full frame sensor, as well as IBIS. And the IBIS really came in clutch because I think, you know, I always take my Ronin with me and I think we said, hey, it's better to take it and not use it than to not, but I don't really felt like I needed to take it, right? I mean, I had the built up version, which has a nice handle. So I was able to kind of, you know, rock it that way, but I also saw you vlogging with it handheld pretty much most of the time. And I mean, looking at the footage, it looks awesome. And you guys can kind of look at the footage too and tell, but it's great to have those tools in this camera, you know, and it's one of the reasons, you know, why we decided to take this out, you know, and I think our first stop was Fonts Point, right? The idea was to get some really cool, you know, B-roll shots using the camera so we can show the quality of the camera. That's why we took the stripped down version of it, you know, and it is a great tool, a great camera to be able to take with you, you know, on any kind of adventures. Being able to have the Kondor blue handle that has the SSD recorder paired with the Sandisk Pro blades gives you the ability to shoot in those higher codecs. But, you know, sometimes you just want to go out, you know, you want to throw it in your backpack, you want to have a one lens combo, you know, and this is definitely a great choice to have.
And I just want to comment on the IBIS. It's class leading. When we were walking around in Julian, I was holding like a jug of apple cider and I was literally walking behind these two. I mean, you can see in the B-roll here or something. And literally, I was not trying at all to try to stabilize. It was just me walking with the camera pointed at something, and I wanted to see how good that IBIS is. And it's so good. It's so good. Paired with this 20 to 60, it was phenomenal.
So we broke for lunch and we ended up stopping in a small town called Julian for some amazing pie and some amazing barbecue. And like Twin said, I mean, we were able to vlog the experience handheld, you know, and you don't need to have all that big beefy setup, you know, just a little bit more conspicuous and you get to fly under the radar, which is really nice.
Some people like the natural look, you know, and this gives it a natural look. The IBIS doesn't feel like it's like overcorrecting, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, you also have to know how to work it. Right? Like, I mean, you're not just gonna be flinging around everywhere, you know? You still kind of have to do the ninja walk, the ninja walk. But, you know, just not having to have that big beefy gimbal is really nice, you know? But when we were out at Fonts Point, it was so bright. And one of the things I told you was, right, I was like, oh my God, I can't even see my monitor. But, you know, the ability, to have an EVF, which is really awesome to have, but, you know, to have the exposure tools that this camera has was like a godsend, right? Because now I can go based off of my tools and not necessarily so much my eye because, you know, we're shooting in log and then it's really bright, you know. How are like some of the ways that you or maybe your students use, you know, the exposure tools?
So, yeah, I'm gonna touch on the main point what like sold me to this camera is having that legacy tool from the GH5, which is the waveform and the vector scope. The other thing I want to talk about too is the customizability of this camera. Oh my god, it's so easy to press and hold and change your settings. So for example, on my my D-pad, I want to call it my D-pad because I play video games, press and hold on the right, and then I change that to my waveform because that's one of the most important things is properly exposing, right? And so I can change that to my custom setting for waveform. So I just click of a button and I can see like my exposure is correct or not. And then I just like spin my VND real quick just to make sure I personally like to expose right in the middle. That's just how I prefer to work. Some people say expose to the right, some people like to underexpose, but I just prefer the middle because Vlog is so good.
Let's talk about some of the codecs that we shot. You know, this camera is packed full of codecs and resolutions. And we could sit here and show you every single example, but we decided to kind of just pick and choose some of the some of the codecs and some of the resolutions that we thought were be something that most people will end up using, right?
So for me, what I did was, because I might shoot this for social, like vertical style, and then I might want to do it for YouTube where it's like landscape style, right? I shot 6K open gate, and I shot at 24 frames per second. And so to have that option to be able to shoot like this gigantic resolution that I really don't need all that.
Well, let's touch on that a little bit, because I like what you're talking about, right? Like, these cameras are coming out and everybody's like 8K, 6K, why? Like, we don't even have TVs that are, it's not the norm right now, right? Everybody's at 4K right now. But, the reason why you'd want to be able to shoot with those is because, like Quinn said, he might not necessarily need all that space, and that large file, but if you need a cut, in post, and you want to crop in and get, really close to a subject, or recompose a shot if you need to, if maybe there's a, you're shooting an interview and somebody messes up and you don't have two cameras where you can cut to the next, to the next seed. You can also, I've done that several times in post where, if I need a cut, I just punch in, and because we're shooting in those high resolutions, you're able to make it look like you have two cameras, and just, give your edit just a little bit, classier touch of professionalism.
I shoot open gate 6K, 30 frames per second at the high school I teach at when we do our podcast, and then I literally shoot with one camera and I just punch into the people who are talking. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's just, it saves the complexity of a full-on like 3 camera setup where I can just use one. And my students don't need to know all 3 camera setup, not right now. Yeah. And then just having one is good enough for them. And then I'm teaching them the editing tools as well, on how to, fake the multiple camera look.
For those of you guys that don't know what open gate is essentially the camera is able to shoot in the maximum resolution the sensor has. So we're not cutting the sensor off on the top and the bottom. So, even if you're, editing in 16:9, you'll have a little bit of space up on top and bottom to be able to punch in and get a shot, and that also helps a lot if, you're somebody that's maybe a hybrid shooter, or you're shooting stuff for social as well as YouTube, kind of like I am sometimes, where, we need to come out with videos that are horizontal and, they'll ask for vertical shots as well. So we're able to punch in and get that really nice 9:16 shot, and you're not cutting anything off, or you're not having to punch in where it, it looks bad, or you're losing resolution essentially. Now, for people that are shooting, we'll call it hybrid video, right? Like vertical and as well as horizontal. One of the features that Panasonic added to this camera as well is the ability to set up a custom frame that you can see on the back of your LCD or whatever. So, if you are shooting and you've got your setup, your shot for horizontal, but you're gonna be, editing some vertical stuff, you can actually build a custom frame and frame your subject so that everything that you want is in frame, which is excellent. I think some of the other features too, like let's talk about some of the other things that I think are great for video, Let's talk about the fact that it has fans. What about that?
I became a bigger fan of the Panasonic S5IIX because it was literally, no, pun very intended. Because this thing packs a fan in here and it just vents off to the side. Like, that's genius engineering right there. You don't have to worry about...
you don't have that extra bulk on the back.
Exactly.
Like some other cameras.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the GH6 because it has that, but it's just so genius that they have it on the side, and it barely, like when I use it, even in the hot sun of SoCal, I never hear it turn on.
Some of the other great physical features of the camera, I think, is, to me, I really like the 3 buttons on the top. I don't know about you, but having the ability to, switch my ISO and my white balance, as a full-time videographer is just great. I don't have to think twice about them. Like, I used the camera one time and I already had that muscle memory. I already kind of knew where it's at, and to be able to make sure those things to me are essential. This camera does dual native ISO. One of the features that I really liked was being able to switch it over to auto, so the camera itself will, figure whatever, what the exposure is, what ISO you're shooting at, and it'll automatically switch over to the native ISO that it thinks it'll do the best, which is nice. The dual SD card slots, the ability to be able to record a backup of whatever it is you're recording is essential. It's essential in the workplace for someone like myself, for someone like Twin, you know, and a proper way of teaching your students, right? The proper way of recording, because when you're out there and you're shooting for a client, the last thing you want to do is have one of your cards fail and you've lost the day, you lost all of your footage. So the ability to be able to record redundantly into the camera is really nice. This camera also gives us a couple other features of recording externally. You know, one of them being external monitor, like the Ninja 5, Ninja 5 Plus, and the Blackmagic Assist. Is that something that you've shot with or that your students have shot with?
I personally have a Ninja 5, and I have shot the highest resolution codec with this camera, which is 6K 422 ProRes RAW 12-bit. That thing eats up hard drive space like crazy, and
I can imagine.
I mean, that's not something you want to vlog with because it's such a huge file size, and I personally like to shoot with a smaller codec. I love that this thing is able to give us the gamut of small file codecs because I'm doing home videos, right? All the way up to, yo, I'm doing a serious film and I'm gonna shoot at this codec.
Yeah. Not only did Panasonic send us the camera, but they also sent us the camera with a really nice cage from Kondor Blue with this handle. Now, this special handle is the SSD handle. You're able to slot the SSD into the handle, which is really nice, so it's tucked away. And you've got the USB-C cable there going directly into your camera. And so what does that do for us? Like, what do you get out of that?
Okay, so the best part is speed, right? So for example, at the end of the day, we were shooting and we finished, and then what we did was, yo, let's transfer this to literally that computer right there. And it was
Let's show them the footage. It was literally like we left the camera recording because it was super dark, right? And luckily our model Kevin has his truck that's like fully rigged out, and we got a bunch of lights in the middle of the desert. But I mean, if you could see, these guys were like hanging out, checking out their footage, and I literally was able to open up my laptop, plug in the SSD, you know, off of USB-C into my MacBook, and God, we were there for what, like a minute or two, if that?
It was quick.
It was how many gigabytes? You told me it was crazy. Over 100 gigabytes footage, you know, transferred over within like a minute. And normally, you know, I'm stuck on location trying to transfer footage and make sure everything's secured and everybody's out of there. But this time around, it happened so fast that we were able to pack up and leave together, which I think is huge. You know, I have a custom built PC that you guys could probably see in our videos, but I'm running all M.2 SSD drives. And the reason I do so is like Twin said, you know, like time is money, you know, and I can't, you know, be stuck in front of my computer, you know, waiting for footage to transfer over for hours. And this literally will do it in minutes. And we're talking about gigabytes and gigabytes of footage that I can, you know, transfer over. But honestly, guys, what I've been doing is I've just been editing off of the SSD. The ProStation actually does 300 megabits a second transfer speeds. So I don't have to worry about waiting for my footage to load, you know, or for my timeline to be choppy, you know, in DaVinci. Like, I have no problem with that. I can scrub through, you know, 4K and even up to 6K footage like we did here with absolutely no problems. And we didn't have any issues with the rig, you know, with the handle connecting to the camera or the camera connecting to the SSD. Everything is just streamlined. You literally plug the SSD in, and in camera, that'll recognize it. You can turn on SSD recording in the menu system, and then you're able to format the SSD card within the handle. So you don't have to worry about having to do that at home or anything like that. You can literally show up, format your SSD, and you're ready to rock. I mean, that's awesome for, you know, people shooting podcasts, within the news, media and stuff like that. The ability, like you said, just to be able to transfer footage or just edit off of it right away onto your laptop when you're on the way to the second location or something like that is awesome. If you're a wedding, you know, wedding videographer, same thing,
day edit.
Same day edit, you know, that's becoming very popular to have like a little highlight reel, you know, at the reception. So you're able to do all that stuff and you don't have to sit there and wait for stuff to transfer. That is a huge, you know, bonus.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna leave it at this, for me at least. You need to find the right tool that works for you. And this tool right here ticks a lot of boxes for that price point.
And one of the reasons why I wanted Twin to be a part of this project is, as you guys know, as you can tell, he's very knowledgeable. Not only is he passionate about video, he's also a passionate teacher, you know, but at the same time, I mean, heading out there, he's the right man for the job. I mean, I think at one point he ended up just kind of taking over the shoot, and it was like perfect, you know, because I want to make sure that we are able to feature, you know, people using the cameras. And, you know, yes, I've had the camera for a couple weeks now, thanks to Panasonic, you know, and thanks to Sandisk for sending me the Pro Blades, but Twin uses it on a daily basis. He's teaching his class through these cameras, you know, and it's a great tool to have.
Yeah, you know? It's just like we said before, find the right tool for the right job and the one that works for you.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, guys, I want to give a special thank you to Panasonic for sending us the S5IIX and the Kondor Blue cage system, as well as Sandisk Professional for providing us with the Pro Blade system. I've been having a lot of fun with this, and I'm just happy that it's part of my workflow. You guys know that I rock a lot of the Sandisk Professional stuff, and this is just a great addition to it. And, you know, definitely showed their colors. It was great tools to have on the job, and I hope you guys decide to pick some up for yourself. If you guys want to learn more about the Panasonic S5IIX or the Pro Blade system, make sure you guys head on down to one of our Southern California retail locations, or come visit us at Samys.com. Now, that's gonna do it for us here today, guys, but I'm gonna do it a little bit different today because we're gonna do it Mr. Heng style. So how we doing, Mr. Heng?
We're doing it like this, where you get your hands ready. If you're new to the channel, follow along for this one. And if you're returning, at least in my channel, you know how we do. Ready? 1, 2, rock. 1, 2, paper. 1, 2, peace.